Hi, I'm Peachy. No plan survives contact with the enemy unless you do a test model first. Welcome to the painting phase. Thanks to Crafton, Unknown Worlds and the game Moonbreaker for sponsoring this video. Moonbreaker is now available for early access on Steam, so check out the link in the description. Now, we were given free access to the game and they are sponsoring this video. So why a video game sponsorship, I hear you say? Well, I'm glad you asked. Moonbreaker is a turn-based strategy tabletop tactics game designed to be a true digital miniatures experience set in an expansive sci-fi universe, and it has a miniature painting function. Some of you may remember Dawn of War, which had a decent army painting function, but it's pretty dated now. Moonbreaker has a far more intuitive army painting interface. It allows you to do things like dry brushing, airbrushing, stippling, washes. You can also add decals, and of course there's the painting part of it, which you can just, there's a really cool interface that allows you to just pick sections, but also you can just go mad. We found ourselves asking the question, can digital painting improve and speed up your own real world painting? Now, currently I have a work in progress warband for Warcry, and it's some Lumineth Realm Lords. Now, I've done some colours that already exist, but I want to try something a bit different. I really like my Living City colour scheme, but I don't want to like strip a model and start from fresh. So what I'm going to be doing here is having a go using Moonbreaker's painting interface, plan out the colours I want to use, but also because of all the different functions you can use of it, I'll also do the Peachy painting, where I like do a lot of dry brushing and a lot of washing as well, because it allows you to do that. So I'm going to have a little bit experiment with some of the colours I can use, some of the techniques I can use, and then just transfer that to a model. So let's jump into the game and give it a go. So the first thing I'm going to do is click collect and paint. So that's how we're going to paint our models. For my lumineth, to try and find something as close to it as I possibly can, is we've got Savaria Safeguard down here. So there's a lot of things to pick from. Some stuff looks very Necron-y, some stuff looks very Sigmarite. So Savaria Safeguard, perfect. So I'm going to clip on her. And there we are, undercoated white. Beautiful. This is like Corax white at its best. And then what we're going to do here is give her an undercoat, or at least what I would do after I've undercoated white is I'll do a wash all over of like Seraphim Sepia. But with a particular test model I did, I used Wraithbone, so I'm going to find something close to that, and I've got down here Enlightened, which feels like Wraithbone. I'm going to go with the airbrush feature, so I'm just going to click on the right there. You've got obviously stipple, decals, dry brush, wash, paint, and you see here on the left we have different size brushes. I'm just going to be messy here and just go all over. As you can see, it's huge. So yeah, so I've got my wash up, change the opacity of it so it's not too thick. And then what I'm going to do is dry brush. So I'm just going to click on the dry brush feature. Right, this is a key thing that will be worth explaining right now, is if I paint that, it's gone everywhere, look. Oh no. So let's undo that. And again, zoom in, get a smaller brush. You'll be like, yeah, let's paint it. Oh, and then you start getting like wobbly hand syndrome and it goes onto your legs. I want those cream. You're like, oh no, this is really annoying. So what I'm going to do here is click toggle auto mask. So what this will do is like a section. So if I wanted like this loincloth to be red, but the trousers to be like cream, what I'll do is I'll concentrate my cursor on the red, and then as I move across, you see it won't go on the trousers. Now you might want to do different colours here on the actual loincloth itself, but you know what? All I want to do is just move out, use a bigger brush. Again, as long as I make sure I concentrate on the loincloth to start off with, it's not going to go anywhere else. So I'm just going to pick out some more red piping, pick out some like bits of gold armour, the weapons, the black. So get them on to the point where it's my actual test model, and then start making the changes. So yeah, I'm just going to do a bit of time lapse on that. So we've got a bunch of colours in place, not done the face yet. There might be a little bit of time up here and there to do. So I've got the red, I've got the gold. It kind of looks a little bit like the lumineth I've got at the moment. Now the lumineth I do have probably has more white robes on it. So what I could do is, where I've got like the red bit here on the front with the tabard and those bits on the side, I might turn this cloak into red. But the danger is it might go onto that one, so I'll have to be very selective about that. But first of all, I just want to try and see what some greens look like first. So I'm going to have a look here, and we've got a bunch of greens. So I'm going to go artist. And again, focus on an area, so the cloak, I'm on paint. So, got myself some green robes. Don't like the green. Do not like that green. Not that it's a horrible green, I just don't like it with the vibe that I'm doing. So, what I'm going to do here is, I don't need to pick that, I'll just pick the colour I wanted, go to paint, and then do that cloak. No, I want a bigger brush. That's better. A bigger brush. Be mindful not to try and get it on the hair. I might leave that hair a separate green, actually. I quite like that. There we are. This is what happens sometimes when you play around. I'm definitely sensing I'm going to enjoy painting my lumineth with a green tone now. Now, I quite like the gold armour, and I'm thinking, do I keep the armour gold and give it a green wash? So I'm going to use Artist again, wash, and I'm going to try that on the gold, see what I get. See if the green tone makes a bit of a difference to it. I've obviously got the dry brush already. That's interesting. Quite like that. It's giving it a nice warm sort of green effect. So I'm happy with the green so far. So I've got a nice green tone to the gold, I've got a nice green cloak. So what I'm going to do is just buzz through, do a bit of highlighting, a bit more shading, do some shading on the cloak, do some dry brush on the plumes and stuff like that, just to finish off the armour, the robes, etc. The great thing with this particular program is if you want to like try makeup designs or war paint or anything like that, you can have a bit of a play, undo it if you don't like it, try different things, and then just, you know, translate that to your models. This is what I love about this, is like I can literally just go, oh, I made a mistake, and I've spent ages unpainting and like tidying back up the flesh. It's a really good way of just, you know, nailing some colours on the model and going, yeah, that works, that doesn't work. So she looks a bit insane right now, so I think I'll pick those eyes out. And now she looks like definitely a Lumineth Realm Lord with some insaneness going on. But I mean, that's just me playing around. That's the kind of thing I'd do for Daughters of Cain or like Chaos Warriors and stuff like that. But it's a really nice way of just playing around with the face. But the great thing with this app is you can undo all that. So I'm just going to go back to a normal face with the eye makeup because I like that better. That's fine. So there we are. That is the colour test I think I'll go down the route of. So slightly green gold armour, a nice sort of, I guess, earthy green. For the robes. Again, for my personal lumineth, I will just pick out the banding on those and maybe do the opposite on the cloak, because I do have some of the stone guard as well, so they have like different sort of effects, 2 cloaks, so I can use that as a guide. And yeah.
Hey, Patrick here, and just a quick interruption to tell you about a brand new feature in the game that we didn't have access to when we were recording these videos, and that is the ability to share your paint jobs from Moonbreaker. So if I click on something that we have painted, great paint job from Peachy here, we have a new share button just next to the name, and if you click on that, it'll load, and then here we are with a copyable link and a full 3D render of our painted miniature, so you can share it with all your mates. Back to the video.
So with our Moonbreaker test model now done, what I'm going to do now is see if I can take that information and apply it to a real world model. Now, the model we used in-game is slightly different to a Lumineth Realm Lord, but the information and colour placement is still applicable. And just like in Moonbreaker, I'm going to start from a white undercoat and an all-over wash of sepia. So the first thing I'm going to do here is do an all-over dry brush with Pro Acryl white all over the mini. And now we're going to move on to our green tinged gold. First up is the base coat, the gold sections. Any gold will do, but here I'm having a go at using Pro Acryl's rich gold. Never used it before, so I thought I'd give it a crack. After that, I'm applying striking scorpion green over the gold. It'll give a vibrant green tinged gold, and as it settles in the recesses, this will really help add more punch to that effect. Also, as a nice highlight to the gold, I prefer to use silvers as highlights, as lighter golds don't always give you enough definition. Here I'm using Vallejo Model Metallic Air Aluminium. With the gold's done, what I'm now going to do is move on to the greens. Now I'm going to be using greens I've never used before, so I'm aiming to try and match those colours that we did on the digital test, just so it ties in nicely, and see how that looks in a real world version. I shall start with the cloak, and for this I will base coat it with Pro Acryl Green. It has good coverage, but I will apply a second coat just to be sure. With the cloak base coated, to add some depth to those recesses, I'm going to apply Poxwalker to the cloak. As always, just check over for any pooling as well. With the shade applied, in some areas you might get some blotchiness, so all I'm going to do here is just tidy up those raised areas, and again I'm just using Pro Acryl Green. To add some punch to a somewhat cold looking green, I'm now going to highlight with Pro Acryl Yellow Green. And again, if you splodge or make any boo-boos, just tidy back up with your other green. With my cloak painted up, I'm now going to move on to the lighter green details of the cloth. For this I will use Pro Acryl Yellow Green. I also decided at this point to paint the white piping around the cloak light green, as I felt it sat better as an overall look. Applying striking scorpion green over that green will help tie in nicely with the gold tone and also add some extra definition to the recesses. And finally, on the light green areas, I'm just adding some yellow green as a highlight to bring out some more vibrancy on that central cloth part. Now I'm done with the robes, I'm using Black Legion to paint the hair, the arm bracelets and around the eyes, just like I did in the game. Now moving on to the skin. Over that white, I'm applying thin down Gunman Flesh, 50-50 with water. Once that's all dry, I'm going to highlight the skin with Pro Acryl Khaki, and then add another thin coat of Gunman Flesh to knock back some of those highlights. Now painting eyes digitally on Moonbreaker was pretty straightforward, just a couple of blobs smack in the middle of those eyeballs. However, translating that to a miniature can be a little bit more tricky. Now I've got two methods here, both of these use a black and a white, so use whatever black and white you've got. Now method one is to paint the eyeball with white and then neatly drop in a little black dot into the centre. Now the downside here is you have to make sure that when you're doing the other eye, it's central as well, otherwise you get the bit of a fried egg eye effect going on, so be mindful of that. So try and keep it as central as you can, or if you're looking one way, keep them both looking that way or that way. For method two, what we're going to do is, instead of having one dot of black, we're going to have two dots of white. So what you're doing here is you're doing it either side of the pupil. So one dot to the left of the pupil, one dot to the right of the pupil. Again, this one is weird because it's almost like you're doing two dots instead of one, but you do get more of a central focused pupil. Now for method two, again, we're just using black and white here, and we're starting off with a base of black and applying two dots instead of the one either side of the central point. So you basically, as opposed to painting a pupil in the middle, you're doing a white dot to the left and a white dot to the right. Again, instead of doing one dot, you're doing two. So it's up to you which one you want to do. Both work really well. Lots of people do either, so it's whatever works for you. So I had my original work in progress colour scheme, which was the red, the cream and the gold, and I wanted something different. I wanted to go down the green spectrum. I knew that, so using the interface of Moonbreaker really helped me sort of work out and plan that colour scheme. So I knew from before I even started painting the actual physical model that I wanted a dark green cloak, I wanted like light green trim, and I wanted a green gold. So it was really useful for that. The only thing I would say is they don't actually have like metallics, so you'd have to use like ochres and greys to actually pick those out. Now they already have pre-painted models on there, so you could use a lot of that already. Just make little tweaks here and there if you need to. And the only thing I would say is it'd be really cool to have like a basing sort of function in there as well. Because sometimes when you, as a painter, you want to see how your models sit on different types of basing. And I know orange works quite well with green, which is why I went down like a bit of an orangey, nice, verdant undergrowth kind of vibe with mine, because I knew it would work, but I've got the experience of that. So the question is, can digital painting improve and speed up your own real-world painting? I think it helps. I don't think it's a game changer. I definitely think it really, really helps. It's an extra tool in your box of tools. As you can see from the video, like colour placement really helps. If you're not so sure with colour placement, what colours sit well next to each other, it's really good for that, especially if you're new to the hobby as well, you don't know, like the colour wheel or colour theory. But also playing around with things like wall paint, as you saw in the video. I had a crack at doing some wall paint around the face as well. So I think it helps. I'm really pleased with the colour scheme when I painted the model as well. So yes, I think it's a good tool to add to your vast array of painting tools that are out there. And before we go, all that's left to say is thank you so much for watching. Thanks to Moonbreaker for sponsoring the video, and we will see you later. See you on the next show. Toodle pip.